You know the classic detective stories, right? A magnifying glass over a footprint, a single stray fiber on a coat. But what happens when the crime scene isn't a physical place at all? What if it's a hard drive? Well, today, we're going to follow the digital trail of the modern detective and dive into the world of computer forensics. You know, over a century ago, a pioneer of forensic science named Edmond Locard came up with this brilliant foundational idea. Every contact leaves a trace. It's the basis for all crime scene investigation. But that idea poses a really fascinating question for our time, doesn't it? What happens when the contact is just a click and the crime scene is totally invisible? Because let's face it, today, the most important clues aren't footprints left in the mud. They're not fingerprints on a glass. Nope, they're strings of code, deleted files, IP addresses, all those digital breadcrumbs left behind in the machine. So let's start by breaking down what this field is really all about. Okay, so what is computer forensics exactly? Let's get a handle on the actual science of tracking down these digital clues. Here's the official definition, and it's a really good one. Computer forensics is where law and computer science meet. Now, pay close attention to that last part. Admissible in a court of law. That is absolutely the key. The goal isn't just to find some data. It's to collect, analyze, and present it in a way that will actually hold up in court. So, to really get how these investigators do their job, we first have to ask a pretty basic question. When a digital crime happens, what part is the computer actually playing? Turns out, there are three main possibilities. So, you can think of a computer's role in a crime in three different ways. First, it can be the tool, the actual weapon used to commit the crime, like using a laptop to hack into a bank. Second, it can be the target, the victim of the crime. Think of a denial of service attack that floods a server and shuts it down. And finally, a computer can just be the crime scene itself, a digital file cabinet holding the evidence, like a hard drive with stolen company secrets on it. Okay, so if the computer is the crime scene, then who's the detective? Let's meet the investigator and walk through the incredibly careful process they follow to get to the truth. Now, this isn't some wild goose chase, just randomly clicking through files. Oh no, a digital forensics investigator follows a super strict 5-step process. They have to make sure every single piece of evidence is found, preserved, and analyzed the right way. And that process is often called PIED. First up is preservation. This is where you secure the device so nothing, and I mean nothing, can be changed. It's like putting digital police tape around the hard drive. Next is identification. This is like finding a needle in a haystack, sifting through a sea of data to find what's actually relevant. Then you have extraction, where you carefully copy that data without changing the original one bit. After that comes interpretation. This is the real detective work, analyzing everything to piece together the story of what happened. And finally, documentation. Every single step, every click is meticulously recorded in a report that might just decide a case in court. But here's the thing. The digital detective's job gets harder literally every single day. This field has become a nonstop technological arms race, with investigators just trying to keep up with all the new challenges. I mean, just look at how fast the ground is shifting beneath their feet. Back in 1984, the FBI forms its first official team. Fast forward to 2001, and suddenly virtualization means the evidence isn't even tied to a physical machine anymore. Then, in 2006, Amazon Web Services launches, and bam, the crime scene can be floating anywhere in the cloud. And then comes 2009, and solid-state drives or SSDs become common. Now, this was a game changer. See, old hard drives just marked data for deletion so you could option recover it. But SSDs, they actively wipe that space to save fast, so when something's deleted, it's often gone for good. A huge headache for investigators. And this really just says it all, doesn't it? The entire history of computer forensics is one long story of constant adaptation. For every new technology that makes our lives easier, it creates a brand new, complex puzzle for investigators to solve. All right, let's switch gears for a second. Because not every investigation is about tracking down some big-time criminal. Sometimes it's just about an employee who broke a company rule. And believe me, the way you handle those two scenarios is completely different. It all comes down to the goal. In a corporate investigation, the whole point is to enforce company policy. So the trigger might be something like an employee is gambling on their work computer. The outcome? Maybe a warning, maybe they get fired. But in a criminal investigation, the goal is totally different. It's to prosecute a crime. The trigger is a broken law, and the outcome, we're talking fines or even prison time. But, and this is where things get really interesting, it's not always so black and white. Those lines can get blurry and fast. An investigator could start on a simple corporate case, right? Maybe an employee downloaded some pirated software. But while they're looking into it, they stumble on evidence of a massive software theft ring. All of a sudden, what started as a small policy issue has blown up into a major criminal case.
So after all that, the definitions, the process, the challenges, what's the big takeaway here? Why does all of this digital detective work matter so much in our world today?
So let's do a quick recap. First, we know computer forensics is that essential bridge between our technology and our laws. We've learned that investigators follow that strict 5-step PIDE process to make sure their work stands up to scrutiny. We also know they're fighting on a constantly evolving battlefield, with huge challenges like the cloud and SSDs. And finally, we get that the rules of the game change completely depending on whether you're looking at a corporate case or a criminal one.
At the end of the day, maybe the best way to think about it is this. We live in a world where more and more of our lives, our conversations, our money, our secrets, are written in data. Computer forensics is simply the language we've had to invent to be able to read that story.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big question to think about. As our digital world keeps expanding and holds more of our private lives than ever before, who exactly should we trust to hold the key?